Hey, what's up guys? I'm going to show you how you can make this firewall on screen in this video. Now, I did already make a video on this, but it wasn't a tutorial, it was just a showcase. So I'm going to go through every single script and explain what everything does and means. You can get this in the description if you want to follow along, or would just like to have all the code for yourself, that's fine as well. So yeah, let's get started. What you will need is a folder for the enemies and a folder for player effects. That's in workspace. Then you will need, inside of replicator storage, a folder for assets, a folder for replication. This does use a framework, so it uses a framework and modules, so I'll go through that in just a second. Then a folder for remotes. We need 2 remotes, one for replication and one for firing to the server. And inside of the assets we need the animations, so an animation for the fireball, and then the sounds, so the ambient and the hit. Now, in JavaScript service, we just need one script, and inside of it a folder where you'll have the abilities. This is how the framework works, so you can have many more abilities in here, whatever you want to have, And then the final thing we need in starter player, 2 scripts, one for inputs and one for replication. Now, to begin with, we need to go into the first script. This is the inputs. So in here we need just a few things. So we need 2 services, user input service and replicator storage. We will use replicator storage to fire to the remote. So we'll get the remotes folder, and then in here we will fire to the server, and then I'll get to the parameters in a second. So then we use user input service here to detect when an input is made. This does only work for keyboard and mouse, so keep that in mind. If you want to do this for other things like mobile or console, you will have to use context action service. You can look up a video for that. That's not the main part of this tutorial. So then we need the player and then the character. We need the player for the mouse, and we will need the mouse to know where we want to fire the firewall to, like the direction. And to this we just do player get mouse. That's it. So in here we do input and then comma GPE. Is mainly just used to check if you're typing. So if you're typing, it will stop and it won't fire. Now here's where you put the key you want. So input.keycode. I just set it to 1. You can change this to whatever you want. But yeah. Then this is where we fire through. So these are the parameters. In here we need to put the name, type, and a function. So the name is the name of the folder, the type is the name of the module, and the function is the function inside the module that we're going to call. I will get to this function in a second, but let me just first show. So the name, abilities, this is the folder. It's the folder for where you have all your abilities inside of, and then inside of that, the type, that's the actual module, so the firewall. Okay, and this function is inside of this script, this module script, and it's what we're going to fire when we press 1. And when the input ends, we want to do the same thing with just a different function, and then the mouse dot hit, we want to send that through as well, because this firewall is done that you can hold it, and then when you release is when it actually shoots the firewall, and that's why we send it through as well in input ended. And we need to send through mouse dot hit, because mouse dot hit is, it does say, no, it doesn't say here, I thought it would. But yeah, mouse dot hit is basically where your mouse is. So from here, you would go to the server side. This is just the server side. It requires every single module inside of it, and just stores it in this table to call it again and again and again, and just have it all ready. I'm not going to explain this code. This is not part of the tutorial. This is for the framework, not part of the actual firewall. So you can just copy this part. I explain a bit about the framework, but this is just so I can do the tutorials quickly, and everything is perfect. So there's no issues with effects or anything like that. And that's also why you would want to use a framework, because it makes everything really smooth and work well together. But yeah, this was the replicator. It works similarly. The only difference is that this one just loops through the folder inside of replicator storage to get everything inside of it until it finds the thing we're looking for, which is Fireball in this case. As you can see here, it will loop through replicate storage to replicate and get descendants. What get descendants does is it just loops through every single thing inside of it. That's how it differs from get children. Get children only gets the thing below it. So for example, in Fireball we have these 3 effects. It would only get these 3 effects. Get descendants would get these 3 effects, and it would get the stuff inside of it. Actually, no, get descendants doesn't get the first. It wouldn't get these 3. Get descendants only gets the things after the first thing below it, I guess you could say. That's why we're doing replicate get descendants, because it will skip through the folder and then it'll get straight to where the modules are. So yeah, and then similar thing, it will just require it and then call it again when you need it. That's it for the replicator and the server side requiring. And now we just get into the scripts. Now this one here is the main one for Fireball, and I will explain this. So this part here is the holding one. This one, there's not much because this is before you actually fire the Fireball. So, but this is where you do the cooldowns and things like that. Here we have 3 services: the breeze, run service, and replicate storage. I don't actually believe that I used run service in this. Yeah, oh no I did. Oh yeah, okay, that's fine then. Okay, so this here is for just a couple variables for the cooldown and things like that. Previous use is the last time you used the ability. Held is used to check if you're holding the Fireball already. And this is just for the remotes, so we can fire through to the client side. In here we need the character, the humanoid, and then we're just going to check if you're stunned. And if you are, then it will return end, so you can't use the Fireball if you're stunned. Then current use is OSL time. OSL time is just a number since the server has started, and we will use this to get the cooldown. So we'll just check if the current use minus the previous use is more than, less than 4, because this would be, say, 100, and this one would have been, if you used it like 2 seconds prior, it would have been 98. So it'll do 100 minus 98, and that'll be 2. And 2 is smaller than 4, so you'd be on cooldown. That's how it works. And if you're not on cooldown, which on the first use you won't be, it will set held to true, so you're holding the Fireball down, and previous use will be equal to current use. This is what actually starts the cooldown. Then we'll say to be unable to walk or jump, so you don't move. And here is where we fire to the client, which is in here. So the client thing that we will fire here is animations, as you can see. And this is what I meant by the function. So you can see here we're firing holding, and this is the function module.holding. So that's what that does. And as you can see here, released. This other one is module.released. So yeah. Now here we fire to the client, and we have the player and the message. The message is to decide if you want to stop or start the animation. And all this other stuff here is for the animation tracks. So character, humanoid, the usual stuff. So this is the animator. In my previous videos I was just doing humanoid load animation, and that's outdated. So I decided to actually do a proper animation tutorial for this one. I guess you could say it's an animation tutorial, but this actually uses the animator, which is the new and best way to do it. So the animator is just a thing inside of a humanoid. So inside of any thing you have, so this enemy, in the humanoid there will be an animator. So you'll get the animator, or create a new one if it doesn't have it, This isn't needed because in this case it's just for the player, so I'm just going to take that out. But here we have the animation, which is inside the assets right here. Make your animation, you know, and then we check if you're not inside the animation track for the player, then it will add the animation track to it'll add the animation to the animation track table, okay, and then the animation track will be set to the animation tracks, and then whatever the animation is for the player. So it's just some table stuff. This can get a bit confusing, so I'll try and explain it as best as I can. But the animation track is basically the animation, I guess. So this is just the animation. So we have this table here where we will store the animation, and all we do is we check if the animation is already in there. So animation track player, and if it's not, then it will set animation track player to the animation. This is basically just the animation. It's the animator, load animation, and then the animation that we have. And this just loads the animation inside of our animator, so we could just do play or stop whenever we want, which is done here. But yeah, when that's done, we don't actually fire through back to the server because the only thing holding those is the animation. So we'll actually just ignore that, and we'll move on to released. So when you release the mouse, it will fire through in released, and it will check if held is true. So if you're already holding the key, and if you were, then it will set holding to, or held to false. And real quick in here, just add I know held is set down. Oh, okay, just add if held is equal to true, then return end, so that if you're already holding it, you can't, you know, press it again. Now, right back to here. So this is quite long. It's mainly just a hitbox, and I'll get to that. But first thing we need is character, humanoid report, you know, the usual stuff. And here's where we fire to the server, the client again. This one is for the animations, and we fire through stop, so we stop the animation. So the only difference is we fire through stop, so we'll do that. Nothing else changed. And then we do here fire all clients. Now the difference between fire clients and fire all clients is that fire client only does it for you. So if you use fire client and you make effects in there, so you fire to the client and then you do the effects, for example, it will only show for you. It won't show for any other player. With fire all clients, it fires it to every single player inside of the game. So that's why you use fire all clients to do effects. And you might be asking, why do you do the effects in the client? Well, if you did the effects in the server, it would get really laggy. So it's just best to do it in the client and use fire all clients to show it for everyone, you know, because the effects don't usually actually have anything to do with the game. It's just for show. So the effects don't affect any hitboxes, they don't affect anything. It's just to look nice, you know, that's it. So it doesn't actually matter if it's on the server or not. It's best to just do it on the client. And keep it as less laggy as possible. And then here we'll just set the walk speed and jump height back to normal because the fireballs are finished. And then we create the actual hitbox. So we make the hitbox from the hitbox that's inside of the script being here. So you just add your own hitbox in there. Make sure the hitbox is non-collidable and the hitbox is anchored. That's all you need to do for that. And yeah, then you clone that hitbox, and you would just want to set the hitbox of the. You just want to set the C frame of the hitbox to slightly in front of you. This isn't too important, but it's just like a start position for the hitbox. It needs to at least be a humanoid root part C-frame. The parent is workspace.player effects. So we'll put all the hitboxes and effects in there. And can collide, can touch. These aren't really important because we already set them, but I left them in there. And then you want to set the attribute owner to the character's name inside of the hitbox. This is so we can find the hitbox later and delete it if it exists, or because we're gonna have to loop through the player effects folder to look for certain hitboxes at times. Then we use game.breathe to add the hitbox for however long you want the fireball to be out for, so 2.5 seconds. And then here is where we do the hitbox. So real quick, at the bottom of everything, you want to do connection is equal to rs.heartbeat connect. So rs is run service, so it runs every frame. .heartbeat means, let's see if it actually explains it. Flies every frame. So yeah, run service .heartbeat flies every single frame. Connect function, and then inside of here you want to have the code. So we're going to move the hitbox's C-frame to C-frame.new, its own current C-frame, position, and we will add the mouse.look vector to it. Mouse.look vector is sort of like where your mouse is pointing towards, so it'll move it by where the hitbox is currently to where your mouse is pointing. Yeah. And then here you just do if time minus start is more than 2.5, then connection disconnect. Connection disconnect will just end this, basically. It'll end it, that's it. And 2.5, the duration of it again. And start was defined at the top here. It's similar to how we did the cooldown. And you don't actually really need os.time. Time works fine as well. But yeah, now the actual hitbox. So you just want to do hitbox.touch connect function hit. So here is the parameter of what actually touched the hitbox. And we do if it's hit and the hit.parent is not equal to the character, then the enemy character is equal to the hit.parent, because we already checked that it's not you. And enemy humanoid, same thing, it's just going to be equal to the character. We already have the character, so we can just get the humanoid and the humanoid root part. And then we check if the enemy humanoid has more than 0 health, and if there is a humanoid, then we check if it's not inside of the table. Now this table is to check and keep up to date with who has already been hit by the hitbox, because the hitbox is out for 2.5 seconds. So if someone gets hit by it, there's a very high chance that they're just going to be hit again if you don't add them to the table and take them off the list, because the touch function fires from every single movement, and this hitbox is being moved constantly and the player is constantly moving, so it would fire many times, which is why we add them to this table to check for every single time they touched they touched the hitbox. And if they have touched it for the first time, it'll add them to this table and it will say true, so the next time it doesn't let them be hit again by it. Now here is where we fire the effects, so I'll get to the effects. It's quite a lot, just copy paste. That's how effects are. So we need the type, the function, and the character and the enemy character. This is so we can put the effects on the enemy character, and the character is to know who to send the effects from. We just need the both of these. I'll get into why we need them when we actually get into the script. Then here we just check if the enemy character is already attacking. Then it will destroy the hitbox. Well, yeah, if the person that we hit, it will destroy their hitbox. And we're doing connection disconnect, so it destroys the fireball when, well, like it stops the fireball from moving when we hit someone. Then here we create a body velocity to move the person we hit backwards and upwards. So this is the X, this is the Y, this is the, yeah, and this is the max force. You just want to set this to max, not huge, for every single one, X, Y, and Z. So there's no limit how far you can go. And then you just add that for 0.4 seconds. Then we just fire through it again. This isn't actually needed. This is from the combat system, but that's a separate script. I'm not going to get into that. Enemy humanoid take damage 10. This is just how much damage you want to take. And this is also not needed because that's this function up here, which I think I actually removed. Yeah, I did remove that. Yeah, okay, good. Because we already have the body velocity here. Then the function to remove hitboxes. This is a function to loop through the player effects, and that's supposed to be player effects. It loops through there, and if the person you're hitting has a hitbox, then it will destroy their hitbox, so their attack gets cancelled because you hit them first, and then it'll just destroy the hitbox. This is where we use the owner thing that we set back there. So yeah, then we'll just set an attribute of stunned, 0.4 seconds, and here we will do an else if the enemy character has the attribute blocking. Here you can implement your own logic. I didn't add this, so you'd have to do this yourself. This isn't a video on blocking, you know. But yeah, and then else, this is where you just copy paste the exact same code for here, basically, except move hitboxes, because this is assuming that the person you hit wasn't attacking. Okay, and that's actually it for this. Final script is just the effects, and there's not much to really say in here. Here you play the sounds for when you hit someone. Here we just loop through everything inside the player effects, and we check if the attribute owner is the character's name and it's fireball. The name of the actual object is fireball. Then let me actually go inside of it. So if it's fireball effects, which is right here, then for everything inside of that, it will disable everything. Now, I don't really think you need this. This is more of a precaution in case the place you're getting the effects from, a lot of effects are kind of taken from Toolbox or anything. And I think these effects, I'm pretty sure these effects are taken from somewhere else as well. I found these effects on just a pack in the Toolbox, and yeah, use them. I'm not here to make effects, I made a script. So just looked at some effects, made a fireball. Great. The code is the important part for me here. So, but yeah, the effects, this is just to make sure they're all disabled when it starts. And then here we make the effect explode. This is when it hits someone. Where the impact. I think I can quickly just show this actually. It's this one here. I'll just enable them. Yep. This one I actually did make myself, which is why it's kind of bad. But yeah, this is the explosion, one of them. And this fires when you hit someone. So when, let me get through this. But yeah, so in here we're going to fire a ray. Right, just all of this, it's to fire a ray. And if it hits someone, so when the fireball hits someone, it'll fire a ray downwards till it hits the floor. This is for the floor effect. And the exploding thingy, it'll just be put inside of the enemy humanoid repod C-frame. That's it. That's that finished. And it'll emit everything. It'll loop through the explode effect, get ascendance, and it'll just emit if it's a particle emitter. And then yeah, this is the final thing for the thing on the ground, and it will just ignore everything inside of enemies. This is a loop to add them all to the table. And then raycast parameters, it will filter type, exclude, it'll exclude everything inside of the table, which will be everything inside of the enemies. This is done so when you hit the enemy, it fires a ray downwards, it won't just hit itself with the ray, it'll ignore itself with the ray, or anyone else, so that it can just go straight down to the ground. And if it hits the ground, then, here we go, it will clone the floor effect, we'll move it down a little bit more, so it's positioned well, and then we will just enable it, and then delay 1 second, and then disable it, and then done. So yeah, this is all the code for this.